Hey everybody, it's your girl Nachi, and I'm here with
Damaris, your lovable Matrix rebel.
That is so fitting.
No.
Damaris is going to help us release, unveil
Break
the.
out.
Yes.
And Marcy will be here to do this the Kundalini way.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're going to get into. That is what we're going to get into. But yes, just want to let everyone know that along with Damaris and I, we have Marcy Campo. She's the creator and host of Comadreando Podcast, and I love that name because it's really telling. It's just like, oh, that's my sis. I need to go listen to her because we're gonna chat it up.
But say that name 3 times really fast, Nachi.
Yeah, no. Get all tongue tied.
So that was one of the you know Samo people that are in the podcast world. They made a comment to somebody that I know, and I thought it wasn't gonna get back to me. They were like, "Oh yeah, she's limiting her audience for her name." I'm like, people are gonna say "comadreando" regardless, like if they
Yeah.
speak Spanish or not. So
Yeah. No.
Figure it out. It's not a big deal. Like no one's being tested on it.
No.
I know nobody's gonna be like say "comadreando" or we're gonna
Say it with the right accent, please.
Look, it's for who it's for. So
Yeah,
like Damaris and I, we always say that our tribe will find us, and we definitely found,
it's true. It's true.
yes. So we like to give our guests a chance to share a little bit about themselves. So why don't you let our listeners know who you are and what you do?
So like the lady said, I am a podcast host, but besides that, one of the other hats that I wear, I'm also a special education teacher and mom to an autistic young man. And in the podcast space, I'm offering my resources to help other moms and create community and basically destigmatize special needs in Black and Brown communities, because I still find that a lot of parents have issues with accepting their children, and also creating more inclusive spaces where our kids can feel like they can be themselves.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that is part of the work that I'm doing right now. But yeah, I've been a special education teacher for about 10 years, and I've been an awesome mom for about 15 years. So
Okay,
I have a
praise
lot
God. That's right. Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, so I've been doing this a pretty long time, and I want to help other parents manage it, right? Because I feel like it's a very isolating experience, and I don't want it doesn't have to be that way, because we're speaking about breaking out of the matrix. We are not made to be in isolation or to work individualistically.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, no, and I like what you said about just kind of removing the stigma to dealing with special needs. And I also think about like the other stigmas that we deal with, and that's just the challenge that we as a community always struggle with. And I know for me, this is going into the topic that we want to talk about is Kundalini Yoga. And Kundalini Yoga for me has been a tool in my healing journey. And I know that it's been a tool for you as well. And so I wanted to bring that, to our listeners so that they know that there's something else out there that they can kind of put in their toolbox for their own healing. Because we deal with a lot of kind of breaking away from the different types of stigma that, eventually causes emotional feelings that we don't know how to process. And when we put individuals in that position, it's like, how do you break away? You start thinking that that's normal, like that's how you should be living day to day, when in reality, no, it's not how you should feel and how you should live daily. So I did want to start off by asking, or at least sharing, what is Kundalini Yoga? What's Kundalini Yoga? Because I know that you've taken the teacher's training for Kundalini Yoga. So what is that? Because I know it's not like it's not hatha yoga, and I know that's a lot of what people think about when they think of yoga.
When they hear yoga,
it's the hatha yoga, because that's what you typically hear. But it's not that. It's definitely more powerful, but I'm gonna let you share, Marcy,
Yeah.
what.
So Kundalini Yoga is, well, yoga in general is just, yoga comes from the word yoke. So
Mhm,
basically, you're yoking, you're bringing things together. So
mhm,
Kundalini Yoga is a yoga that is specifically, it builds physical strength and stamina, and enhances your cognitive function and your emotional balance. It works on your fitness and a spiritual connection. So basically, what is more, I feel like the most important part of Kundalini Yoga is that it balances everything, like your
yeah.
spiritual, your
Mhm.
mental, and also your physical well-being as well. So it's basically called a technology of human consciousness. So
Mhm,
when you practice Kundalini Yoga with time, you're able to get all those things aligned and together, which is fun. Not fun, but like very healing for so many people. Yeah.
no,
She's like, as you go through the trauma of healing, yes, it is lots of fun. No, I mean, but you get to the fun stage in life. I mean, in the sense that when you start aligning your chakras and all that good stuff, and just that internal kind of intuitiveness that we all have. And I
Yeah.
feel like this is something that taps into that potential, right? That's just
Yeah.
like that we're so conditioned by society just to function and be a cog in
mhm,
that wheel, versus like, what about like really thinking about yourself internally and what it is that you need, and how do you um, kind of do that work inside, right? To
Yeah.
help manifest your external.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say the first time, and it's true, it does become fun afterwards, but it's the whole going
Yeah.
through, I always say going through that fire so that
Yes.
you can, and again, it's just like you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready to kind of let go and peel the layers that has become who you are now, right? And how
Hmm.
you navigate and deal with the trauma that, the traumas that you've dealt with throughout your life. But I found it really interesting because I was reading up on um the history of Kundalini. And on Yoga International, their website, they shared this article, and they shared the meaning, like they broke down the word Kundalini, and I was just like,
Hmm.
oh, that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna kind of read it out for you, like how they put it. So Kunda in Kundalini means coiled, and then any can be translated as power, which leads to the definition of, for Kundalini as the dormant energy coiled at the base of the spine. So then it had me thinking about, oh, that's your root chakra. And then it's just like, well, what are what's associated with our root chakra? And when you think about it, is the whole feeling safe and feeling secure and, feeling grounded and all those things. And so when those things are blocked, you start feeling other symptoms that
Mm-hmm.
show that your root chakra is blocked, and that would include depression, anxiety, disconnection and isolation, all of that, right? And so and there was one thing that they put up on their hoarding material things. I like laughed
Ooh.
out because
Oh, we suffer from that
yes,
as a people. As a Dominican.
I
Oh, ethnic
oh
group. Oh,
my,
we suffer from that.
not
Yeah.
wanting to let go. And again, it's just the whole security thing. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
gonna
So
need this. Yes,
Yep.
just in case,
yes,
We might
just in
need it,
case
or
you
we
need
might
it.
need to give it to someone else and that can
yes,
use it. So we're not going to throw it out because someone else can use it if we don't use it. But that
right,
means
Mm,
we got to keep it.
right.
hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
piling,
Piling
it's
up
getting
Girl.
and just,
in dust and yeah.
So
oh
through the
my
work,
goodness.
there's different kriyas that you practice, and a kriya is like a set of exercises, and it's usually paired with meditations. And through
Mhm,
those practices, usually they last 40 days, which is called a sadhana.
mhm,
And through those practices, you work on clearing certain energies in your body. And there are specific yoga sets for working through your sacral chakra and working through feeling secure and
Mhm.
like moving through that trauma. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right
Right.
now, when I first started practicing, it wasn't like sunshine and rainbows
No.
and wearing the white and like,
No.
all these nice things,
That
and singing and
kumbaya.
meditation.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't all of that. It was
Mhm.
ugly, and it was like boogers and crying and just like remembering things that you purposely take out of your mind,
Mhm.
through
Mhm.
trauma, like via trauma. So like re-remembering those things and then working through it, not just putting it to the side and putting it on a shelf, but actually
Yeah.
working through it. So
Because
that's a
that's what
big,
you've done already, right? And
yeah,
that's why it's been dormant, but now you've kind of unleashed it with Kundalini in a sense
yeah,
of having to, in order to heal from something, you have to be willing to go through it and
Mhm.
letting that go, but you can't just bury it, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's been like a coping mechanism for a lot of us, right? It's just like you bear it and you move on, let's not dwell on it. Just move
mm-hmm,
on, and what's next, because dwelling on it isn't going to help, right? Because that's
mm-hmm,
the mentality that we deal with. But at the same time, we deal with certain things in life that just ends up triggering that trauma.
'Cause you
100%.
never
And then,
dealt with it.
right, and then our reaction to those triggers
Mhm.
aren't the most healthy.
Yeah,
I know. Because my reactions weren't always so kind.
yeah,
Especially with her ex-husband.
Wasn't.
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's true. It's just like
100%.
you
Mhm.
my reaction, because it's just like something would be triggered and I'm like, oh, here we go with this
Right.
BS.
Yeah, and then
Right?
before you actually do the work, like recognizing that it's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you're just kind of like in it and you're like, this is the way I am, right? But then you
Yeah.
don't
Mhm.
know it's a trigger because of something from your past.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, once you start you start crying and the boogers are coming out.
Mhm.
It just reminded me. So the first time I got introduced to Kundalini Yoga was through the Brujas of Brooklyn. And I did a sadhana. The first sadhana I did with them was the conquering the anger within. Oh
Mm.
Lord.
Is that the one I did with you, or was it after?
No, I can't
Okay.
remember what you did with me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it was conquering anger.
No, that was the first one.
Wait, this
And
one
that
that you were doing
no, this one is just like where you had your both the index finger up, like
the,
stretched out,
yeah.
stretched out, and then we had to breathe through our tongue, or
Oh,
um
I know. The cooling breath. Yeah, yeah.
yes, breathe like that. And oh my Lord, I remember times where I was just like, I don't know where it would come from, but I would just start boo-hooing, because I would be in my living room, because we used to do it like early in the morning. That's
Mm-hmm.
typically we would practice this around 5:30 in the morning. And so it's really quiet. The kids are in their, bedroom sleeping, and I'm just like boo-hooing while I'm going through this. But it's just, it's hard for me to explain, but it's just like it does bring up, you start thinking about all the things that is going on with your life, and how, and all the and how it even turn out to be in that fashion, and you just start
Yeah.
like unpacking all of that. And so it's just like the whole process, because it doesn't, it's just not for me, or at least these sadhanas. And I appreciate the container that the Brujas had put together, because it allows for you to, one, do the practice, but then come together as a community to kind of bring up what has, like, talk about
What
what has,
triggered?
yeah, what
Mm-hmm.
are some of the things that were brought up, and kind of talk through that, and just kind of hearing other women dealing with similar things, or dealing with just how they're coping with, those triggers. And it's, it makes you feel like, okay, I can do this, I can unpack this, I can mutate it, and come out better at the end. But it, just to your point, Marcy, it's just like, yes, it brings up all these emotions.
Well, you know what? On that point, Marcy, can you describe what it is to do a kriya? I think because for some, Nachi and I know I did it once. I did a sadhana once, and I was like, okay, this is great, but 5:30 in the morning, I can't do this again.
Yeah.
But even though, and I know we could do it any other time, but it was to me, it was definitely like I would describe it somewhat as a series of breath work and also just some physical movements that are accompanied with that breath work. But you describe how sometimes you start crying, so it'd be interesting to describe for our listeners, like, what does that look like to do a kriya?
Okay. So really, so you have to open the circle, right? You have to protect the space and make it sacred. So you start with it's like the one call is called Satnam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you say Satnam, and then you go ahead and there's like a, is it like a prayer? It's something that you recite to cleanse the space and protect you.
Yeah.
And then you start, right? Usually it involves like physical movement. So it could be anything like, what is this? Like having both thumbs up in the air,
Oh
like you're
yeah, I
plugging the
remember.
sky, and
Yeah.
then you're doing breath, or you're moving around. My teacher Siri Rishi, and also the Bruja, studied with her. She usually does like very physical at the beginning, the first 3 minutes, and then you get into the kriya itself. But it's just to move the stagnant energy throughout your body. Usually the kriya consists of like 3 different exercises, so it can be something like, so
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
you can start with like something easy like cat cow, breath of fire. The one with the thumbs in the air is ego eradicator, and then
Mm-hmm.
you go into the exercises for that kriya. So for example, I for the final test, I had to do put together like a kriya for people, right? And I decided to work on inner anger, because I feel like, because I'm a people pleaser, I
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
let myself get angry. Like
Yeah.
people do
Yeah.
Yeah.
really rude things or are mean, and I'm just like, no, it's okay, because I'm
Right.
always like so understanding, right? But then I
Right.
notice that there's other things that people do that I'm just like, rah, right? And I lash out at the wrong moment, not at the person
Mm-hmm.
that I'm actually angry at. So whatever, I
Yeah.
put together this inner anger kriya, and they're all actually detailed. So Yogi Bhajan, the person that brought the Kundalini Yoga to America, he has a detailed teacher manual where he has all these sets of different exercises that you can practice. So it all works together for a reason. So usually they don't advise you like picking and choosing what you do. You usually follow, like, you look up in the textbook, like, what is a kriya to help me with whatever it is, and it's already there. All of them are there.
Right.
So there's kriyas for addiction, to work on clearing your sacral chakra, to work on your heart chakra. Like, all these things are there. So you practice it, and then at the end, usually you end with breath work and a meditation. The meditation can be a singing meditation, or it can be just reciting certain sounds after a while, and then you just kind of like, after a while, you are doing it like basically on autopilot, and you zone out, and then
Mm-hmm.
at the end you close the kriya itself. But
Which is a kind of form of meditation, right? Like I
yeah.
think
Mm-hmm.
just that when you're focused on a specific thing, that is a form of meditation. What
Hmm.
whether it's breathing exercises or doing something like a kriya. But yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I appreciate that too, because you're doing, like Marcy had said, you would be doing the practice for whether it's 40 days or 90, depending on what it calls for. But it's doing that practice on a daily basis. There's something about that just is soothing in a way,
Hmm.
because you're doing something for yourself, right? And it's helping you kind of process whatever challenge you're dealing with. Like I said, I love doing the sadhanas because it brings us all together. But at the same time, I get excited, right? Because when we start this sadhana, like, okay, I'm all gung ho, start doing this. I'm gonna do it by day 10. I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know. I don't know if I could make it to day 11." And I'll be honest, there's been sadhanas that I did not complete.
Yeah.
and the whole thing about that too is that when you started and you don't if you don't continue, if it's not continuous, you have to start all over with day one. And that is where it's just like,
So if you mess up on day 30, then add 30 plus 40. That's
Yeah.
70
They
days.
whole
let me
day
tell
thing.
you,
Yep.
I've
Wow.
been there where I was at day 30 and something, whatever happened, and I realized by
She forgot to
midnight
do it.
I didn't do it. That is like the
And you have
worst
until what,
feeling.
midnight to do it before the next day for it to count, like, you know.
So if you start it before midnight, if you start at 11:50, as long as you do it before 12, you're fine.
Right.
Like even if you end like 12:03,
Right.
12:05,
Into the next
whatever,
day.
you're
Okay.
fine. However, like where you run the risk is like
Waiting till late.
not
Yeah.
starting at all, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and things happen. We're not perfect,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
Right.
the one thing that is, it's very intentional. Like the way that things happen are meant to happen for a reason.
Yes.
So you're getting the medicine that you need. And whether you decide to continue or not, like, you know, that's a personal choice. But some sadhanas are really hard. I remember the first one that I did virtually with the ladies. I forgot what the name of the sadhana was, but I know it was like we were doing like arm circles like this.
Yes.
Yes, I think
Yes.
that's the one that I did with you, Nachi. I remember we were doing some arm circling thing. I was like, this is arm stretches,
No,
and I'm
it's
tired.
intense.
I'm tired.
Yes, it
Yo,
can
my
be intense.
shoulders were cut that summer, but let me tell you, in the middle of it, I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it.
But it's like, it's those difficult ones that makes it even harder to start all over again.
Oh,
And-
yes.
But yeah, to your point, it's just like, it's the whole intention. And I think that's what's important, is that you have an intention to get on the mat and do this practice, right? And that says something or does something to you. And, you know, and it does feel kind of funny if you try to, you know, play the, oh, well, yes, I missed yesterday and that was day 38. I'm going to do 39 tomorrow. And no, it doesn't.
It doesn't work that
No,
way.
it doesn't work that way. And you miss out. I feel like you miss out if you do something like that. So, which is why there's been a couple that I did not complete, but I could not restart. I was just like, okay, I'm just not ready for this right now.
Yeah.
I will start it another time.
You know
Yeah.
what's important, when a lot of resistance comes up to certain kriyas, you have to sit with it and
Mhm.
analyze
Right.
why.
Yeah.
Why are
Mhm.
you facing all this resistance? And kind of, it's also medicine, because you're like,
Mhm.
you're really reflecting, and not from like a superficial perspective. It's more deep. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it could, and it's
that
your,
was one of the biggest things. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Tamara.
and I was going to say that it's probably your body's way of telling you you're not quite ready for this particular
Mhm.
change or transformation. So, and because of that, you should focus on why you're not ready, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then work on that, doing something else. And I
Mhm.
think that's great that Kundalini kind of brings that out again to the surface of like, it's forcing you to think, okay, well, why did this break down for me at this point during the sadhana? And I only did one with Nachi, and she introduced me to it, and it was one with the Brujas, and it was great. And I finished it. We both finished that one, right,
Yeah, we
Nachi? I
did.
think?
We did.
I was like, oh, this is great. But I am the type of person, if they say, oh, the best time to do it is from 5 to 6:30, you could do it any time of the day, but that's the ideal time, then I feel like that's the time I need to be doing it. So the few times that I did wake up to do it with the community, I was like, I feel sick. 3 hours later, I was like, I feel sick because I've been up so early. My
Yeah.
body is rejecting this. But so I would do it in the afternoon, but it was great when we finished. Like, I felt good about, I forgot if it wasn't about anger, Nachi, but it was healing something. I can't remember quite what it was, but
Yeah,
I felt good afterwards. And I was like, I'll do it again. I've not done it again, but I do want to do it again. But I want to hear from you, Marcy, and you, Nachi, because you've done quite a few sadhanas, and obviously you've done the training, Marcy, about the healing that you, like, what did you see change in your life from practicing Kundalini?
So I feel like my spiritual journey really started it started before, but like officially 2017, I feel like I had like a breakdown. I was doing like,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I had not attended okay. So in 2017, the Brujas had a 3-part series of like healing the inner child. So first you worked on your mother wound, then you worked on your father wound, and then you worked on the relationship you have with your inner child, right?
Mhm.
Before I participated in that, like when I was started like doing yoga and doing all these things, was like there was like this full moon ceremony that was being hosted by Fearless Leon at the time. And I went, and they had this person like reading everybody's aura, and we were practicing yoga at the same time. It was also with this girl, Soupy Glow. And at that thing, the person that was reading everybody's aura was like, she's gonna have a breakthrough. And she pointed at me, and I was like, and
You're
I don't
like,
know.
breakthrough. You're like, not break down, break through. Don't get it twisted.
No,
Yeah,
sis,
well,
I had a
that
breakdown.
came with the breakdown.
Girl, I had never
That
cried this hard in front of
mm,
people in my entire life. I was
mm,
crying like
you
nonstop.
release that.
You know when you were a little kid that you would like get in trouble and you would cry and you'd be like,
Mhm. Yeah, yes,
Yes,
I
yes.
was like
yes.
that. I couldn't
Oh,
stop myself, and I was like, "Ooh,
Hyperventilating.
yes." I was
Yes.
like, "What
Yeah.
is happening?" And I got home, my eyes were swollen. I was like, "What is going on?"
oh
Anyway,
my
fast forward
gosh.
to the 3-part series with the Brujas. That was like over the course of 3 months, and I just felt like I don't recognize that Marcy that I was then,
Mhm.
if that makes
Okay.
any
Mhm.
sense,
Yes,
Yeah.
because I've
yes.
worked through so much. My relationship with money. I worked with my relationship with my mom, like the mother wound. Like people talk about father wound, right? They're like, oh my God, because of the
Mm-hmm.
dad. No, it's the mom.
Mhm.
Like your relationship with
Mhm.
your mom
Mm.
Mhm.
influences everything in your
Yes.
life.
Speak on it, Marcy.
Your relationship with authority, your
Hmm.
relationship with money, the men you pick.
Mhm.
Now, Marcy, are you an only child or are you oldest, or where are
I
you
have
in
the
your?
oldest. I'm the oldest.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's why you're not. No, 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 no. Because that mother wound, like she and I have very different relationships with our mother.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Nachi?
Yes, it is. It is.
And like when we've talked about how we viewed marriage and early in our life, like what we wanted when we were younger, I had always in my mind, I'm like, look, I want to get married and I want my husband's kids. I don't want kids outside of that, right?
Hmm.
I felt like when I meet the right dude, I'll just marry him and then,
Hmm.
I'll have his children. But that's where I'm at with it. I'm in no particular rush. I'm not like, oh, I'm dying to get married. I just want a family similar to the way we grew up. She and I
Hmm.
grew up. Nachi had a very different experience that came from the views of our mother that mommy didn't really
Didn't place on
apply to
you.
me,
Mhm.
but because Nachi was the oldest and that was her firstborn, Nachi had a different experience. So,
Hmm.
and it sounds very, I feel like you have a mother wound, Nachi, that I just don't.
Yes.
I'm like, nah, I
No.
didn't have to do that.
I felt that
Yeah,
on a
it
soul
was
level.
no, no, it was a lot. Yeah, girl. Girl. It was a lot of my mother would interject herself in, and I know it was meaningful, but she would interject herself in relationships. If she would see me with someone for like 2 years, you're not planning to get married. What's going on here? You need to
Mm,
like let him know that this is, he needs to propose to you, and she would do stuff like that.
yeah.
And it would get to a place like, well, yeah, well, maybe I should get married. What's up with you? Like, why aren't you asking me to marry you? Like
Versus
it,
like, what are
Yeah.
the reasons behind getting married other than your
right.
mom pressuring you?
Do I really want to get married to this
Hmm.
person?
Meanwhile, my mother never, I mean, granted, I don't think I was not she was more of a serial monogamous. I was not. I was just more like, I'll date. But I was like, really? Just like, and so I don't think I was with anyone long enough for mommy to be like, when you getting married? My parents
Right.
were more like, oh my God, who's going to take care of you as you get older because you're never going to get married?
Oh my
Like,
God.
I'm like, it'll be fine. But again, I didn't have that level of pressure.
Yeah.
Never. I never had that kind of conversation with mommy. Mommy never interjected in my
Yeah. Yeah.
relationships.
No, but
No.
in a lot of things though, in a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
things. But
But
it was
that's
just
right.
like, yeah, but that's just
But when
like a
Marcy
good
mentioned that,
clear.
I was like, damn, that was like, sounds like not sheets. We digress a little bit, but that all like,
No,
so I'd love
it
to hear
shows up
that.
in your life in so many
Yeah.
different ways,
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
even my relationship with authority. Like I feel like
Mm.
because I
Yeah.
had a mom that was
Mhm.
so persnickety about so many things. Like when I
Mm-hmm.
encounter a person that is a micromanager, I'm like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
rebel. Like,
Yeah,
fuck what you
yeah.
said. I'm gonna
Yes,
do
yeah.
whatever the fuck I want to do. Like, I didn't, or like, I'm like,
Because
I
you
can't
wanted to
work
do
with
that
this
with your
person
mother.
anymore. Yeah. I'm like, I can't work with this person anymore. I'm gonna go to another school. That was literally me. I was like, nope. I was like,
I'm
this is too
done.
much reminding me of like my mom. I'm gonna leave.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, it was, I was thinking about it the other day because when you're going through it, you don't really notice it right away, right?
Hmm.
It's something that comes eventually, and then when you look back, you start to see, huh, I was very different back then. And similar to you, Marcy, I was, the person I am today is not the same person I was, back in, I think, 21, 20.
You sure about
When,
that?
no, I'm very
I'm
sure.
just kidding at you. You are different. You're
I
different.
am positive
You're so much
because
better.
and I will use the way I
You
approach
haven't.
things. The way I approach
Yes,
things. I used to get very triggered about a lot of things.
very much so.
And I would get hyped immediately. And so, because the master would always be like, okay, calm down, bitch. Calm
I'm like, what? I'm like, why are you so triggered right now?
down.
And so I triggered her on purpose too, so that she could get over her trigger, so she
No,
could
but
recognize that she's
that's
being
not
triggered.
I
no.
wasn't
That
gonna
was the
win.
therapy.
No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my
That
form
is
of therapy with her.
that is not therapy. No, it's
Okay.
not therapeutic.
You're welcome, Nachi.
FYI.
Okay. You're welcome.
No, I am not thanking you.
Oh my
You're
god.
welcome. You will one day.
I won't.
Oh my god.
but but yeah, but I think about how I deal with certain people in my life now, where it's just like, that doesn't even concern me anymore. Like, I'm not
Right.
worried about that. I got other things that's more important. My focus is myself, my children, and caring for my mother. It's just like, I don't have time for the nonsense. Like, I'm
Yeah.
making moves and that's it. Right.
Yeah.
And, and I can see, when I mentioned earlier how, when there's certain energy that's stagnant, it brings up anxiety and depression and all of that. And I remember just being in that space back then because of, our father passed away. And then, my mother was diagnosed with dementia and, just dealing with being a single mom. It was just like a lot going on all at once.
Yeah.
And it was happening so fast that I couldn't even process it enough. Right. And so going through the whole Kundalini, doing the Kundalini Yoga and the different sadhanas really helped me kind of process all of those feelings, because it helped me kind of pull away those layers and start, self-accepting like accepting myself,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with self-acceptance in the whole process. Like, you're enough, right? We like to say this, like, yes, I am enough. I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be X, Y, and Z, or I don't have to be in this certain position to be, to be better, to be my better self.
Right.
The way I am right now is enough. And it's just like kind of sitting with those feelings. And there's something about sitting with those feelings.
Being
Just,
still.
yes, it's powerful, because you go through it, you feel it, and then once you feel it, you know how to manage it and process those feelings so that you can move on to the next thing. And I'll say this, I find that just looking at other people who have been doing or practicing Kundalini Yoga, and they talked about their challenges and where they are now, you can see the transformation of these people. You know, you see people who would leave their job to go follow their passion because this is where their heart, you know, this is where their heart is. And you see people just like, you know, now becoming more active and advocating for, you know, certain social, you know, social needs and
Causes.
and social causes, that this ignites an energy within you. I find, you know,
Yeah.
it makes you, it just makes you it's not even a totally different person, but it transforms you to who you actually
To
are.
be right. I was about to say it makes you
Yeah.
more authentic
Yes,
almost, right? Like
yes,
who you're supposed to actually be. It
yes,
taps into that.
yes.
And I know I've read where, and you've mentioned it even when Marcy, you and I, the three of us met on our pre-call, was that Kundalini is considered a technology. And I find that so fascinating because I'm like, well, what does that actually mean? I mean, I looked into it, but I'd love for you to share about what it means when they say Kundalini is a technology.
So the reason why they call it a technology is that you use so many different things to be able to tap into yourself. So basically, it's transformational, right? It helps you release blocks in the reservoirs of untapped energy. So you know that
Mm-hmm.
Kundalini energy in the base of your spine, people don't usually tap into that energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you unblock your chakras. Um, it helps to balance your glandular system as well. Um, and revitalize your nervous system, right? We talk about the subtle, because we don't only have like the 7 chakras. There's more, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
Right.
also like
Yes.
Yes.
you also can work on your aura and making it more powerful and to help you protect yourself from like negative energy as well. And the breathing practices and hydrotherapy, it's a technology because everything works together to just kind of
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
help you elevate, right? And once you tap into that kundalini energy, it just like travels up to the base of your spine, and it's supposed to open up your third eye when you're purposely working through it. And it was funny because I get all these TikToks about like what is like conspiracy theories and things like
Uh-huh.
that, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But there was one that was like relating like the age of Jesus with like Kundalini energy and all these other things. And it was a lot to like explain, but it just works. So the visual of Kundalini energy is literally it's sitting dormant at the base of your spine, and through the work through Kundalini yoga, you're able to elevate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we perform the locks, so like you do neck lock, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
have your neck perfectly parallel to the floor, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're also applying mula bandha, which is like the locks to your sexual organs and your anus and all of that, and you're squeezing those as you're breathing, so that helps to move the energy up more steadily. But yeah, it is definitely a technology because it's not one thing or the other. It's all these things
Mm-hmm.
working together to help you just awaken to who you really are. And I love that you said
Right.
that, Nachi, because
Yeah.
a lot of people were programmed to like just work on autopilot, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
Kundalini kind of helps you step out of that and tap into yourself, your
Yeah.
really true self, and see your highest self for who you're supposed to be or who
Yeah.
you actually are, but you forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
No,
No.
I think it's I love it, right? I'm all into being authentic and however you manage that. And I love that Kundalini also involves a lot of breath work because Nachi and I, we had a episode, our first season, solely on the benefits of breath work and why folks should do it, because the act of breathing itself is intended to release toxins. So
Hmm.
when you do like these very specific breathing techniques, it really does tap into areas of your body where you've held onto certain traumas or certain energies that you've not released, and you're now like burdened with that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so this is a form of release in that way. And I'm also curious about the religion aspect. I feel like some people are going to listen to this and I'm like, what is this chanting and all this stuff, right? Like, but I don't view this as a religion. I view this as like, this is a form of, is a meditative practice, also one that includes, breath work, things that you naturally should be doing and tapping into your body to move and shift energy around. But have you come across people when trying to explain Kundalini, how especially being Dominican, right? Like, it's like, if you're not Catholic, then you probably like, Pentecostal or something. I'm just saying, but when you don't understand something, it's quick to be like, what is this?
Right.
Demonio. No, but
Mhm.
I haven't encountered that specifically, but genuine curiosity from people. You know what it is? A lot like I'm not, and don't come for me, Christian people, please. There's certain branches of Christianity that believe that yoga is not of God or of
Right.
light, right? They
Mhm.
believe that yoga is bad, whatever. So they have Christian yoga. Whatever brings you
Okay.
closer to God is
Okay.
cool with
Okay.
me, right? However, it's really just tapping into yourself. So like with me, I question anything that is telling me exactly what to do and how to think and how
Come
to
on
behave
now.
all the
Yes,
time.
Marcy.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I'm just
Agreed.
like, what is the reason, right? But yeah, no, there I feel like, okay, so Satnam just means what is it? I'm gonna look it up because I'm not gonna misquote it.
Yeah.
But basically it means like my truth, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Satnam means my truth, and that's what you're
Mhm.
saying. And then Satanama, those are sounds that help unblock your chakras. So
Right.
Sa is here, down here. Ta is the other chakra. Na goes here. Ma, right? So
Mhm.
you're doing all this chanting, but it literally. So the language that most of the meditations are written in is Gurumukhi.
Mhm.
And you know what's interesting about Kundalini Yoga? It was started by the Sikh gurus. So even though it was started by Sikh people, it
Mhm.
it it didn't integrate some things of Sikhism into it, but is not a religion per se. So it's really
Right.
more of a spiritual practice, and it actually helps you get closer to God. So it doesn't have you pray to a certain deity or anything like
Right.
that. Like whatever you embody or you represent, that's what you're going to bring to the table. So it doesn't precisely
You
like
increase that
steer you.
connection.
Yeah, it
Right.
increases a connection. It's not telling you to go like join an ashram and like become Hindu or whatever
Right.
the case may
Right.
be.
Yeah, and I've seen people of Islam and Christianity practice Kundalini. So yeah, like Marcy said, I think it just helps you connect more with God, and not to a specific deity. That's not what that is. It's
Oh, I was gonna say that Satnam means I am truth, or truth is my essence. So
Mhm.
basically, you're just like speaking your truth.
Yeah.
And
Right.
another thing I wanted to like touch base on is that I feel that through the practice of Kundalini, I've unblocked my throat chakra, so I just like say what I have to say. And also like being
Right.
a mom of a child with autism, they're like the kings and queens of like IDGAF, like they don't give a crap about you have to say it. So through the practice of Kundalini and having a child with autism, I
Right.
become very, very free with myself, because I feel like as a kid, I was not encouraged to speak up. Like
Yes.
it was
Oh
very much
yeah.
Yes.
from the school
Mm-hmm.
of a child should be seen and not heard.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Yes.
through the practice of Kundalini, I have been able to rely on my own voice and be able to speak my truth without fear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's a big shift for us coming from our community and our background,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
that being feeling empowered to speak up, where especially when it comes to familial bonds or matters within the family or close friends. It's just that idea of like, no, you're supposed to just take what your parents say or what your elders say, and
Mhm.
no, if this doesn't align with me, I have to let you know respectfully,
Yeah.
Right.
but
Right.
don't try me, you know what I mean? I and And the thing is, and part of it, I feel like we were raised because our father was like that. He was really out of pocket. Like he had no problem telling people where he stood and and where you stand with him. And so growing up, I didn't really like when I became an adult, I was like, I got it now, Poppy, got it. Yes. Standing in my truth all the time.
Yes.
10
yes.
toes down.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't match with what everyone else is doing. They're just conditioned. They're bots. You're not.
But you know what's
Yeah.
funny is that everyone who has crossed this path say the same thing. They would always say, your father did exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's like the highest compliment because I'm like, yes.
He
That's
lived
what he's
his
supposed
life
to
the
do.
way he wanted to live
Hello.
his life. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? You're absolutely right. He sure
Listen,
did.
and as people of color and like, you know, descendants of people that were enslaved, like we're taught not to use our voice and we're supposed to be
Yes.
quiet and like meek and like follow all these things. And Kundalini just kind of like reawakens you and like through the work also like you tap into more of your creativity and you let yourself speak in
Right.
that way as well, which is pretty it's just amazing, like the things that have come about, like Nachi was saying before, through all the sadhanas, like people leaving their jobs and like deciding to like leave a relationship. And it's not
Yeah.
about leaving and like just quitting things.
No.
It's just kind of
But
like you awaken to what doesn't align with you. And if
right.
something,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how big it is. If it doesn't align, it doesn't align. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
It no longer serves you.
yeah. What is that? There's a, is it a meme that says like, if it doesn't, if it doesn't, align,
If it doesn't
kind of
fit,
let
you
it
must have
go.
quit.
Yeah, that, and like, you know, the ponytail, the relationship, the job, just let it go.
Right. Right.
The ponytail.
Let the weave go. Let it all go. I know that's right.
But it's letting go of that fear, right? Because that's what it boils down to.
That's what
It's
keeps
that
us.
We're afraid to move on. We're afraid of something new. We're afraid of something not working out. Like, yes, we want that, but I don't know how that's going to turn out. So it's just like dealing with those fears and
Fear
trying
of
to figure
change.
out. Yeah. And it is, yes, it is scary. It is scary
It
to
is.
change, especially if you've been doing something for so long. Yet to try to change and do something different, it's like,
what do you mean?
yeah, no, you're crazy. I know.
But
This is what I know. This is what I know.
But you know what's funny is that they always say the one constant is change. And that is the truth. Like, as much as you can try to fight it, it doesn't matter. Things will change. You may not change. Everything else will change around you. So it'll force you to change. So what are you going to do?
Yep.
But speaking of that, you know, all of these benefits of healing and from Kundalini Yoga, what are some tips that you could share with our listeners about how to integrate this into their life and even simple baby step ways so that people can, you know, get a taste and then hopefully really dive deep?
So there's different ways that you can integrate Kundalini into your everyday life. One thing that I did learn from my teacher is that, so there's this meditation that we listen to in the morning before you. So her sadhanas, I feel the Brujas of Brooklyn have this beautiful container and they practice a certain way, and then other people practice a different way.
Yeah.
So my teacher's like very
exact
and strict. So she listens to this meditation that usually it can take 33 minutes, 11 minutes, or like 16 minutes, something like that. And then, so I what I do is that I use and integrate what I can when I can, right? So if I can do breath work in the morning, I do that. I practice gratitude also before I get out of bed. You know, I talk to myself and I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. I do, you know, breathing meditations, and anything can be a meditation. It doesn't have to be that you're sitting still.
Yeah.
It can be that you're meditating while you're doing the dishes, right? You're just taking that moment to really sit with yourself and kind of breathe through it. Another thing that that they practice in Kundalini is the cold showers in the morning. Like I will do a cold shower. So the way that I integrate it is that like I take a shower, regular shower, and then at the end the last rinse is cold. And it helps just really wake you up.
I've tried it
Coñazo.
maybe 1-2 times.
But it really helps because, like, I don't know, it just
Oh, it wakes you
it
up.
It
wakes up
does
your
wake you up.
whole endocrine system and your whole body wakes up. Just obviously don't put it on your head because something about like putting cold water on your head actually makes you sleepy instead of waking you up. So obviously no cold water, no cold water on the head, but like everywhere else is fine. But doing those things like that, and then even using Satnam when I'm going to do something, and there's a lot of different chants that you can do as well. So like some of them are so catchy, you catch yourself doing the chants without actually being in practice, which is funny. You're on the train, you're like love.
She's
But I
like,
feel like, yeah, so there's certain ones that like there's practices you can look it up on. I'll leave a website link for everyone.
oh, that would great. Yeah.
But there's certain practices that just take like 11 minutes of your day to start
Yeah.
off, and it
Right.
doesn't have to be anything like super intense that you're like doing all of these things, but uh, taking 11 minutes a day, 11 minutes out of how many minutes are in the day? I don't even know. I can't do the math.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
taking 11 minutes a day for
Yeah.
yourself, even if you don't necessarily practice Kundalini, but taking 11 minutes just to sit with yourself and like really hone in on how you're feeling and what things are coming up or reflecting on your day is
Right.
important, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being still, right? Like, I mean, it boils down to just being still for whatever that 10 minutes. And like you said, if it's not some Kundalini yoga technique, you can still do that just by being still, right?
Yeah.
Just focus on your breathing. Start there.
Yeah.
I
But we
know.
would love that link.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
of
know
course.
that Sarishi used to do, I don't know if she still does, on IG, she would do some of her practice on it. And I always remember seeing, I never, ever got on one, but I would watch later on and I would look at how long the whole session. I'm like, an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, wow. It's like it could be deep as that, but also as short as 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's
It's so
it's
important.
one of
And
those things.
yeah, she does like she's finishing, I think they just did day 40 of the Galactic Sadhana, and it's intense. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And then she's really big about like really energizing your body before you sit down to meditate, because a meditation can be 11 minutes long, but
Mhm.
like you have to move your body before you sit, like, because just in the learning and the teacher training is basically you have to do some kind of physical exercise so that your body does obey when you sit down and you just want to calm your body down.
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
go in
Right.
from not doing anything to sitting for 11 minutes straight, it's going to be hard for you to actually
Yep.
get into a
Mhm.
meditative state.
Yeah.
No, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Are there any last thoughts you want to leave our listeners with as far as what they should consider with Kundalini Yoga, like the benefits, the just anything else to add? Because I think there's so much, there's a lot that can be covered with this topic, but I feel like if nothing else,
I feel like we did Kundalini 101 right now. But
Yeah, we did.
yeah, that's good.
yeah.
I'm glad.
So basically, what I do advise is that there's certain breaths that you shouldn't do if you're pregnant or if you're on your menstrual cycle. So
Mm.
breath of fire, anything that's like belly pumping breath, try not to do. So instead, do deep breathing, and just start a little bit at a time. You're not gonna know what's gonna work for you until you try it, and just keep an open mind, because sometimes the postures can be like what Nachi said. You're just
Yeah.
sitting there in the easy pose with your fingers extended and like chanting something, and you think it's not doing anything, but then like later on in the day you're like, oh my god, like stuff is coming up.
Yeah.
So just sitting through those feelings, and don't be scared to try
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah.
No, I love
Absolutely.
it. And then where can they find you?
You guys can find me at Comadreando Pod on IG, TikTok I have, but I feel like I don't use it as much. But on YouTube as well. So I have my
Awesome.
podcast is like your podcast, so I have
Yep.
video as well as sound integrated
Awesome.
as well.
And we'll absolutely put this in the show notes as well. So don't worry about that. And Nachi and I, we always close out our episodes consistently. There's a lot of noise out there. But our message is consistent. Stop getting distracted by the smoke and mirrors, tune out the noise, and focus on your divine purpose in life. Vibrate higher to elevate your frequency. And always, thank you for listening.